I was gonna make a regular Toonie Talk talking about The Simpsons and my thoughts and feelings on the series as a whole and blah blah blah. But I've been going through classic Simpsons, which I've done before, but I've been doing it again. Yesterday I was on season 2, and it just reminded me that the classic era of The Simpsons was really not only genre defining, but generation defining. It was spectacular. It was so well varied and balanced. Yeah, there were bad episodes of classic Simpsons, but the good ones always stood out, and they always were memorable and quotable and fun. They made you fall in love with that whole Springfield cast. You know, they had celebrity appearances that were good. They didn't feel shoehorned in a weird or bad way. Now, with celebrity cameos, you either feel one way or the other. I think if they're done right, they're fine. But if they're done in a way like modern Simpsons does them, they're not great. But back in the day, they were done really, really well. Guys like Michael Jackson, and shame they've tried to censor that. Different political figures, and Leonard Nimoy, and I think they had Mark Hamill, and just an endless number of celebrities over the years. I'm just trying to think of the classics. It's kind of hard because I'm still going through it, and I've gone through it several times. I didn't grow up with the classic era of The Simpsons. I didn't grow up with The Simpsons at all. Being a Christian household, The Simpsons was kind of verboten for good reason, because it's not really for kids. I mean, there's some episodes that would be acceptable for kids, I would say, just barely though. It just kind of depends on what you want your kids exposed to. But I mean, the show even addresses this issue, which is really interesting. You know, not in reference to itself, but in reference to, like, in the episode of season 2, Homer versus the Eighth Commandment. You know, he's stealing cable, and he catches Bart watching an adult channel, and he sits down with him and he goes, "Now that channel's not for you, that's for Mom and Dad. I want you to promise me you'll never watch it again." It was just it was so wholesome, and it's the way that parents used to actually parent their children, and it almost brought me to tears. It really did. I hadn't seen that episode. I skipped a bunch of season 2 episodes, and that's the thing, is I'm trying not to skip episodes that sound boring. I'm trying to just watch it through. And I've got to really just sit down and watch it through, which is something I haven't done because of time and other things. But everything I've seen is awesome. It's just spectacular. I love the characters. I love the setting. I love the way the setting is represented. I love the way that they deal with cultural issues. It feels balanced. It doesn't feel biased one way or the other. It feels like an honest view of society, an honest mirror of society. It basically holds up a mirror of society and it says, let's laugh at ourselves. Which is perfectly fine with me. But nowadays, satire isn't like that. Modern day satire is a totally different beast. But back then, it felt like real satire. It felt really, really good. Shows like that and The Critic, oh man. I already did my video on The Critic just gushing over that, but you can see that it was by the same creators, because it's just so great. It's just so great. Classic Simpsons is so memorable. It's so iconic. It's so fun. You know, it's really just a great series. And it was sadly misrepresented, I think, by its own marketing and showcasing the parts of it that were more adult, shall we say. I don't know. They built up a reputation for themselves with the more adult humor, but there was so much heart in this show that went almost completely ignored. And it's really a shame, because I think a lot of people missed out on a real classic of a show because it had more adult subject matter, and people were concerned that kids would start watching it because it was animated and, you know, that sort of thing. And because Bart used to be basically the main character of the show, and, you know, that sort of thing. Even though the show is really about the family. The family are all equally the main protagonists. So, I mean, it's just a fantastic series. Everybody's got a cutoff point, I think, though, because it is still going as of the recording of this video. In fact, tonight is when the new season premieres. I believe it's 35, 36. I think it's 35. It's October 1st, 2023. So, I am going to watch it. I don't know why I'm going to watch it. I think just because I've never really watched a new season from start to finish. So, I'd like to be able to at least say that I did that while I still can. So it is what it is. I'm not expecting it to be fantastic. I saw the sort of promo sizzle reel they had. Some stuff looked fun. A lot of stuff looked just like they're doing the bare minimum, and they're relying too much on a lot of the things that they know will get laughs from people. It doesn't have the heart it used to. It's kind of just going for the low-hanging fruit gags. But we'll see how it turns out. Maybe I'll do a full review of that season once it finally is concluded. But as far as classic Simpsons is concerned, man, it's hard to do better. This show defined a generation. It defined a genre. It was just amazing. It absolutely was. And I would recommend to people to watch the earlier seasons. I'd say seasons 1 to... cutoff point is kind of tough because I haven't sat down and watched all of it, but I'd say until about year-wise, till about the 2010s, maybe. I think that's a pretty safe bet. From the 90s into the early 2000s, I'd say by about the 2010s is when it probably starts to really fall off. That's not to say there aren't bad episodes in seasons that people like. You're going to find bad episodes. You'll have to go to your own discretion as to whether or not you want to watch these episodes all the way through or if you want to skip them. You got to do your research. You kind of got to do the legwork with this show, but it's absolutely worth it because it is good. It is very, very, very good. There's a reason it is so highly praised. There's a reason Simpsons Mania was a thing in the 90s and into the early 2000s. It was a cultural phenomenon. And it's kind of sad what it's become. It didn't have a dignified ending. It really didn't. The movie probably should have been the ending, but Fox just kept renewing and renewing and renewing and renewing. And you see they've tried to insert other animated series as a possible step in and sort of a gradual transition away from The Simpsons, but none of them have worked like that. They tried with Family Guy, didn't work. They tried with King of the Hill, didn't work. They tried with Bob's Burgers, didn't work. Every show that they've tried has not had the same lightning in a bottle effect as The Simpsons because The Simpsons was so many elements coming together at once, at the right time, at the right place, doing a lot of firsts. First true, major, successful adult animated series. Wasn't the first adult animated series, but one of the first majorly successful ones. One of the first on primetime television consistently, as opposed to Saturday mornings or whatever. You know, it was major. It was absolutely major. Again, there were others that attempted what The Simpsons did, but they didn't succeed. The Simpsons was the one that succeeded. And it was spectacular. It absolutely was. Yesterday, I was also watching old promos from the 80s and 90s, the late 80s and the early 90s. It was great. It was great. Promos and bumpers, the kind of stuff that made TV fun that they've kind of stripped away. But this was all a part of an era that just felt better overall. Yeah, the 90s had their problems, but man, was there more morality in the 90s? Was there more of a push for morality, especially from Hollywood writers, which was amazing considering how bad Hollywood has always been. So, Classic Simpsons is a breath of fresh air in a sea of garbage today. I've already made a video talking about my problems with modern adult animation, but Classic Simpsons is amazing. So let me know down in the comments below, what is your favorite Classic Simpsons season, episode? What drew you to the series? What do you take away from this golden age of the series? All of that, let me know down below. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Super Koopa TV with another edition of Toonie Talk. I will see you guys next time. God bless. Have a good one. Peace.